Hello, everybody. Welcome today. If you could please take your seats. I'm Tom Mortel, Chairman of the Board of the Boise Metro Chamber and a partner at the law firm of Hawley Troxell. We're pleased to have you with us today for the 2021 State of the University address featuring BSU President Marlene Tromp. We welcome to the Chamber. We welcome everybody, including Dr. Tromp especially. We're excited to host this event, and we look forward to her remarks. We thank you for your support of Dr. Tromp, Boise State University, and the Boise Metro Chamber. Today's address is presented by the Idaho Central Credit Union. Our sponsors today are Blue Cross of Idaho and the Gardner Company. Our co-sponsors are Albertsons, Sparklight, ESI Construction, and Hawley Troxell. Our table sponsors for today's event are listed on the inside of your program. Please join me in thanking all of our sponsors. I would now like to introduce the reserve table. Please stand when your name is called, and for the rest of you, please hold your applause until after I have introduced everyone. Dr. Marlene Tromp, President of Boise State University. Lance Hatzenbeller, Senior Vice President of Commercial Services, Idaho Central Credit Union, and Bill Connors, President and CEO of the Boise Metro Chamber. Please join me in welcoming our reserve table. I would like to now introduce Lance Hatzenbeller, Senior Vice President of Commercial Services, Idaho Central Credit Union, who will introduce Dr. Tromp.
Dr. Tromp, 2-minute warning to eat as much as you possibly can before you speak. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us, and it's nice to see so many people here without masks, being able to get together in a room again and just share that community support again. So thank you all for attending today. We at Idaho Central are so proud to be the presenting sponsor of the 2021 State of the University. My name is Lance Hatzenbeller, Senior Vice President of Commercial Services, and ICCU takes a lot of pride in supporting Idaho universities and higher education. We know the graduates of these colleges and universities will be the future workforce for so many of our businesses. It's my pleasure to introduce an individual who's been such a vital part of higher education at Boise State University. It'd be easy to rattle off her long list prior to coming to Boise State, but I think you've got a couple things accomplished since you've been here, Dr. Tromp. So let's talk about what you've done. Dr. Marlene Tromp took office in July 2019 and immediately went to work on creating opportunities for the residents of Idaho and students wanting to attend BSU. Upon her inauguration, President Tromp quickly created an endowment for the Presidential True Blue Scholarship, thus offering more assistance for Idaho residents with the opportunity to attend college. In addition, she focused on teaching, researching, and servicing by spearheading many programs such as the Community Impact Program and Hometown Challenge, to name just a few. In addition to helping create so many great programs and outlets for students at BSU, Dr. Tromp helped create a unique opportunity called Bronco Gap Year in response to the challenges higher education faces by providing students with a low-cost, flexible, individualized college experience. I told her I would say nothing about politics, so I will leave that out and let her answer any questions you may have. But with that being said, I'm happy to introduce the President of Boise State University, Dr. Marlene Tromp.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is just a delight to see all of you. It fills me with a kind of joy for us to be able to be together again. And I am so pleased to talk to you about Boise State University. I'm going to move through these slides really quickly because I think the most important thing is for me to be able to talk with you directly. So I'm really grateful and proud of what Boise State has accomplished this year. As business leaders, you know the challenges this year has faced, and you have been a vital part of Boise State's success. Thank you. Thank you for your advocacy of education. And I want you to know that in spite of all the challenges, Boise State is thriving. We have a record number of graduates this year, record number of research dollars, and we are determined to reach students across the state. I'm really proud of our COVID response. All of you had to sort this out, but what many of you may not know is our Extra Mile Arena, which you've attended for basketball games, was used as a classroom this year. We really tried to rethink how we did business so that we could do things in new ways. It was all about serving students and serving you. And one of our highest priorities was how do we actually get people back on campus? Because we had seen the data that students wanted to be there in person, but we wanted to do it safely. So we built a public health office and we brought folks back, and we put incredible leadership over that public health office. We brought folks back. We created those face-to-face classes, but in a safe environment. So in order to achieve that physical distancing, we needed to use big spaces like Extra Mile Arena. But we changed the way we thought about our whole campus. And what I charged our community to do from the very beginning, Lance and I were talking about this just before we began today. I charged our community to think about how it was going to change the way that they understood how the university should function and operate, how it would make us a better university on the other side of the pandemic than we were when we went into it. We wanted to serve our community. You heard that research, teaching, and service are the goals of a research university. We provided over 1,000 face shields for local businesses and Idaho-related organizations around the world. And we trained teachers in the K-12 system. So Boise State University has a long history of working with online education. We were an early adopter of online education, and it's given a lot of our students enormous flexibility. But our K-12 teachers have never had to teach in a remote environment or online environment. So Boise State jumped in that summer and provided training for K-12 teachers. And many of those teachers wrote back and said it was phenomenal what that did for them to just have someone help them imagine how they could still give the great concepts, but also keep the connection with their students when they had to be remote. So very high priority, teaching, research, and service. We created a public health campaign. We processed over 30,000 COVID tests, and that was the latest figure that I had when I wrote this deck, in our public health center. So we stood up a CLIA certified lab, but we didn't just serve people at Boise State University. We served the entire city and folks anywhere in the region. We wanted to be able, as a university, to serve and help so that we could actually provide a service that would make an impact. That's why we held the mass vaccination clinic on our campus too. We wanted to ensure that if people wanted access to that vaccine, they would have it. We've given 5,500 vaccines to the larger community. We've tested healthcare workers, police officers, first responders. We got a call, my public health staff and my amazing VP of University Affairs and Chief of Staff Alicia Esty got a call early on a Saturday morning, went down to the police station because they were having an outbreak of COVID, and she tested every single officer with her staff so we could ensure police readiness. So we are committed to serving our community. And we are committed to growing our impact. And let me talk to you a little bit about what that impact looks like. This year, we graduated nearly 5,000 students. I think that's a number worth taking a pause over. 5,000 students graduated this year alone. 6,162 degrees and certificates were awarded. So that might be a person who got a degree in psychology, but also got a cybersecurity certificate. So what we're doing is we're training people to be ready for that workforce, to make that impact. And our enrollment has grown 26% in the last 10 years. Boise State University is booming. I want to give you a little taste of what that commencement was like. So we were still under grave restrictions at that time. But we thought, how are we going to commence all of these students? We wanted that face-to-face commencement because we knew for students it was such a loss not to have it. So we had a 2020 commencement and 2021 commencement. And do you know that almost 1,000 students came back for that 2020 commencement from all across the country? So let me give you a little taste of what that was like.
Welcome to the 108th graduation ceremony for Boise State University.
Isn't that awesome? I have to tell you that commencement is my favorite day of the year. It's my favorite day of the year. That's what we do it for, is those young people who have changed their lives for the rest of their lives, forever. It's the only thing that can never be taken from you, burned, lost, destroyed. It is a forever accomplishment. And we're so proud of that. And we do it for them and we do it for you. Because the way Idaho thrives is sending talented people to work for you in your businesses. I said young people, but not all of them, of course, are young. Many of them are returning students. We have this incredible gift. I think I have the best job in the world. We have this incredible gift of being able to train people to bring their gifts to the world. And we are doing it in a way that no other institution in the state is. We are the 6th lowest tuition in the United States. The 6th lowest. And we're not only the most efficient university in the state, we are one of the most efficient higher education institutions in the state, including community colleges. Now, let me give you some sense of why that's such a dramatic thing. I have never seen this in my career, that a university could be more efficient than a community college, because community colleges don't typically have residence operations, big dining operations. Those are very scaled back in a community college. So we have a whole city of people. They typically don't have things like a football stadium or a basketball stadium. They don't have a research enterprise that's making new discoveries every single day that change people's lives. A research enterprise is expensive, but the ROI on that research enterprise is profound. We actually cost less to train students than some of the community colleges here in Idaho. That's a phenomenal outcome. We're incredibly efficient, and we have 100,000 living alumni here in Idaho. What a profound impact. And it doesn't just help those 100,000 individuals, it helps you. And to my way of thinking as the president of Boise State University, one of the most important things we can do is serve that community and learn from you what you need so that we can help train students so that they are successful for you. We committed ourselves during the pandemic to serving small and large businesses. Many of you will know about our Small Business Development Center. We had advisors who were available to talk to people to help them deal with the challenges of COVID. We have a Center for Professional Development where we can bring customized education into your workplace. You may know about Tech Help. Tech Help is an organization that helps businesses imagine how they can create new products, test those things. They support that process for you. We want you to be aware of Tech Help. It collaborates across the university. So we can bring together the people that you need to help you and your business. The work we're doing at Venture College is helping support entrepreneurship and innovation in Idaho. And Idaho is a place known for trailblazing. And Boise State is a university that is nationally recognized for being innovative, nationally recognized for innovation. We call it blue turf thinking. I bet you can't imagine why. Last fall, we launched the Bronco Corps. This is a program that provides small businesses and nonprofit organizations with student interns at no cost so that the students get work experience and those launching businesses get an opportunity to have the insights of a new student. They've worked with Gardner Company, Boise Bicycle Project, American Red Cross, Girl Scouts of Silver Sage, Girls on the Run, Boise Cakery, just to name a few. And we get great feedback on their work because these young people are hungry to work with you. And we know that that career preparation is important because we don't want a student who graduates and who can't imagine how they're going to fit into your business. I always say I teach English, and I always say that I don't want an English major to sit down at a job interview and have someone say, "What did you learn in college?" and have the student say, "Let me tell you about Walt Whitman," because that's probably not what that bank is wanting to know. What they want to know is that that student knows how to critically analyze complex data, how to communicate, how to write, how to think critically about difficult issues. That's what they want to know, and that's what we teach. But we know that if we get them connected with you, it's going to make them even better because they're going to have that real life experience. So our career services programs are very, very important at the university. They're important to us and they're important to our students. And if you haven't done so already, I hope you will connect with our career services. It's one of the most important things you can do to help us train the students in the way that you need them to be trained, but also to get those students ready. So if you bring someone as an intern into your offices, they'll know how your organization works. And when you have an opening, that might be the person you want to hire. So I encourage you to post a job, join an on-campus recruiting session, invite an intern to come connect with you. We also have an exciting new project, the Boise State Business Partnership Hub. We want to continue to strengthen our relationships with all of you. And this June, I'm going to be meeting with a key set of business leaders so we can talk about this hub. And our aim is to understand better what businesses need and to work in tighter partnership with them. So we drive the university forward, we support our students, and then our students and the university are supporting our businesses. So I told you that we call it blue turf thinking. I want to give you just another little taste of how we're thinking about this.
There's so many ways this represents innovation at Boise State. So first of all, we do research on memory chips, and the base itself looks like a memory chip. When you place memories of innovation, which is what the blue turf represents, into the base, you're forming your own memory of innovation. As you place them there, there's a circuit, and that represents how we all work together on our campus to create innovative things. And then, of course, there's the iconic Boise State Bee as the centerpiece. If you look at the blue turf, it has some words on it that represent what blue turf thinking means to us.
Creativity and innovation isn't restricted to any given field. It's really about just having good ideas. The real work of engineering is done with your hands and with the hardware by manipulating objects. And so a project like this is invaluable in building the students' ability to work in the real world and use their ideas and see it through to the end point.
Everyone at Boise State is an innovator. It doesn't matter if you're a student, staff, faculty member, everybody works together to come up with new ideas. This is blue turf thinking.
So how are we embodying that blue turf thinking? And I'm going to really fly through these next slides. The Keith and Catherine Stein Luminary has just opened in our new Center for Visual Arts, and it'll be open to the public in the fall. Do you remember the first time you used an iPhone or an iPad? The Luminary is a room that you can enter and see simultaneously all the works from Vermeer. You can touch on a work and learn more about it. You can move works around and compare them with each other. You can ask for similar artists or things created in the same year. You can access a database, and these images are not images that come from Wikipedia. These are images that most people will have never seen, that come from the galleries themselves, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Louvre. And what you can do, because these images are created with cameras that cost tens of thousands of dollars, is you can do this. I've got it. It's a visual. And when you do that, you can magnify these images because they're created with such fine grain, and there's no granularity in the image at all. Jeremiah Dickey, our wonderful new AD, who's actually seated on the left side of the room, my left side, walked into that luminary, saw these images exploding, and it's paired with sound. So you can have these incredible experiences. And he said, can we bring football recruits in here and play them a game? It's an incredible experience. I hope you'll all go there in the fall. I have so many things I could talk to you about, and I want to be able to get to your questions. So I'm just going to move quickly through some of these. We just launched a new Institute for Pervasive Cybersecurity, and it's going to be designed to work for you. We know how important cybersecurity is. There's nobody who is walking around without a computer in their pockets right now. Cybersecurity is critical for business. It's critical for organizations, nonprofit organizations. It's critical for our future. And we have the asset of the INL in this state that has its focus on cybersecurity. So we really want to grow what we do at Boise State for cybersecurity. We're developing new tech innovations. And what I'll do is I'll make sure that Bill gets this slide deck so we can share it with you, because I'm just going to fly by these. We've created new programs. You heard Lance mention one of them, the Community Impact Program. We have so much talent in our rural communities, so much talent, like the one I grew up in, where almost nobody I knew went to college. The 4 people I knew from my hometown that went to college, one is a surgeon, one is a judge, one is a university president, and one is a school teacher. From Green River, Wyoming. What I want is to make sure that we're accessing that talent and making sure they have access to the highest quality education. And we've created layers of programs that will allow them to go home and bring their talents home, because we don't want to just drain talent out of those communities. We created Bronco Gap Year. You heard Lance mention this. We saw during the pandemic that young people weren't taking the steps to come to college. And so I went to my leadership team and I said, hey, how do we help people that have been cut off from their networks, that have been pulled out of their schools, still take those steps to come to college? And we developed Bronco Gap Year. And the amazing thing about this program, so what it does is it gives you a dedicated faculty mentor, and you can take up to 12 credit hours in the course of a year for $1,250. And that dedicated faculty mentor works directly with you to help you figure out what's your plan for the future, where are you going? And the students have had such tremendous success. They didn't stumble or lose their way. Even with the pandemic and the economic challenges that people faced. We're also doing incredible research. We're at nearly $50 million in total awards this year. That's a 41% growth in the last 5 years. That's new money that comes into the state to do research that impacts our state. This is bright news for our economy. And we're focused on excellence. Stanford just came out with a list of the world's top 2% of scientists. 13 of them were from Boise State. Top 2% in the world. We have among the best online educational programs in the world. And this year we had Halima Hamoud, who is a refugee who came to Idaho, who is our Truman Scholar. Last year we had 2 Truman Scholars. Guess how many Harvard had? Man, I love saying that. Our students are among the most talented and brightest students in the country. They're winning national recognition for the extraordinary things they're doing. 27 Fulbright Awards. We also, some of you may know about esports. My son said to me, he's 19, he said, why on earth would any university sponsor esports? Do you know that it increases enrollment in engineering programs? Our esports program is nationally recognized, and our coach won Coach of the Year. You guys know about Bronco Athletics. But what you may not know is that we have one of the most academically successful athletics programs in the entire country. We're in the very top percentages in academic performance. Our students finish their degrees, they do it successfully, they do it with good grades, and they go on and graduate. I am so proud that we have these amazing athletes that also perform in the classroom. And of course, you know, we have a new AD and a new football coach. And I can't wait to see if we can open up that stadium this fall. So we're looking forward to an exciting new year. We have a new strategic plan. I'd be happy to talk to anyone about that who wants to hear about it. And given this tumultuous year we've faced, where we've heard people say, maybe universities don't have the balance we need, we are launching the Institute for Advancing American Values. And American values are freedom of speech, free exchange of ideas. We invite people to learn and grow. We are going to model a healthy dialogue on our campus between all those voices for the benefit of our state. I am honored to be a part of Boise State University, and I am so grateful for your partnership and your advocacy and your support in the last year. And I can't wait to see what we'll do together next. Thank you.
That is certainly a pressure-filled task for all of us.
I thought, quick work. Well done.
Good
Thank
work.
you.
Dr. Tromp, thank you so much for your comments. You're a wonderful ambassador for the university and for our state, and we appreciate you being with us here today. I have some questions that we've received from some of the attendees today. So let's just talk about them and have a good discussion. So first question, how should the university balance the educational attainment of its students and the academic things that go along with being in a university setting against addressing the state's long-term workforce needs? We have a state has many workforce needs. How do you balance those two important considerations?
I really think those are woven together in a fundamental way, because what happens in terms of workforce development is about helping our students chart a path to what one of my colleagues calls making a living and making a life. So regardless of what their major is, they should be thinking from the beginning of their academic career all the way through graduation, not just as they're approaching their end of their senior year, but throughout their career. Where am I going? Why do I want to do that work? They should be experimenting. And so what we've built into the curriculum is a much more intentional career focus than a lot of institutions have. And it's one of the things actually that attracted me to Boise State is the openness here to thinking about how we might do things differently and better for our students. And one of the ways that we know we can do that is if we help them begin thinking about that. And that's like the example I gave earlier. If you've got an English degree, you don't want to talk about Whitman in a job interview at a bank. And so we want them to understand those things, but also be reflecting on what they're learning and about what they want to do vocationally when they graduate. But it means we also need to be responsive. You've heard me say a number of times, I really care about what you all think. We need to be responsive to the needs of our community. So when we see that there's an incredible demand in the state for nurses, and we see there's an incredible demand in the state for social workers and for engineers, we have to figure out as a university how we can help, because our job is to serve the students and serve the state. How can we help grow those areas of our curriculum to make sure we're providing those students?
Thank you so much. During the past few legislative sessions, we've heard a fair amount about diversity programs, and more recently about critical race theory and social justice being taught at BSU and other schools. Where do you see opportunities to build bridges and maybe come to a common understanding with the various parties that are on both sides of those important issues?
Thank you so much for that question. Sometimes I was actually explaining to Lance and Tom that after JFAC, I got flowers and candy from people I'd never met delivered to my house. I was like, wow. And I met with a classroom of students who had watched all of the education hearings that day. They were advanced students. They're actually current principals who want to train to be superintendents. And so we have a special program for them. And they had watched all the education hearings, all the different kinds, because it's a way for them to begin to think about that larger scale kind of question that you have to think about as a superintendent. And the question they asked me is, basically they asked me 100 different ways, how do you not lose your cool? And I said, I'm a teacher. And my job is to understand why the person I'm interacting with, what their questions are, what their fears are, what their concerns are, and to be responsive to those. So I think it's about partnership. I think I have to listen to what those concerns are. And I can tell you that when I met with some legislators early on, when I first arrived in Idaho, and some of you may remember I got a letter straight away from our legislature. And I went and met with some of the folks that signed that letter. And I spent a couple hours with one of the signatories. And I kept asking, what at bottom do you fear? And at the end, what she said to me was, I don't want a white kid from small town Idaho, to show up on your campus and feel ashamed because of things that they don't know or because of who they are. And I said, oh, you mean a kid like I was? I don't want that kid to feel ashamed either. I don't want that kid to feel silenced either. I want every single student who walks on our campus to feel like it is their place and that they have an opportunity to grow and learn and for all of their voices to be heard. That's what that Institute of American Values is about. How do we ensure that all of their voices are heard? So for me, it's not about a fight, it's about a conversation. And I do believe that we will get there in that conversation, but it really is going to require the help and support of our business community too, because almost everything that's happened in Boise State long before my arrival in the last 15 years has been in response to you. It was our businesses that told us we need our graduates to be able to be global thinkers and to be able to work across difference. So we responded to you. And so we need to all be in that conversation. But I truly believe that most people are motivated by good faith. And if you can find the shared terrain that you're standing on, often you can address the most challenging problems.
Thank you for that thoughtful response. Bill doesn't like it when I go off script, especially when I'm snarky, and I'm not going to be snarky today, but it's easy to do when talking about this subject. But I do want you to know you have my commitment on behalf of the chamber that we're going to support you as you work through these issues. These are important to our business community. Training the next generation of our workforce and the students that our businesses are going to hire is very important to us. So you have our commitment there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. This is maybe an up in the air question, but if you could change one thing about higher education, either in Idaho or more broadly, what would it be and how would you go about implementing that change?
It's the easiest thing I could possibly answer in a million years. 30 years ago, states invested more than twice as much in public education. Now, it's not because they suddenly didn't care about education, it's partly because the demands on states have changed. But it has become harder and harder and harder for young people to afford college. And what's happened is the state has invested less proportionally in public higher education, is that cost burden has fallen more and more and more on students and their families. So I am determined to make cost as little a barrier for our students as possible. And if I could wave a magic wand, public education would be free in this country. But what I can do, and I'm doing right now, is you heard Lance say that the very first thing I did when I came here, when I had my inauguration, I made it a benefit dinner for our True Blue Scholarship. That scholarship benefits Idaho students who have financial need. And I've raised $500,000 for that scholarship, but that is not enough. I want to endow it. I want it to be sustained. I want any talented Idaho young person to not have to make the decision between eating and class. I don't want them to ever have to make the decision that they just can't swing it, and so they're going to have to work another 2 years at the convenience store. I want them working for you with that degree. So for me, it would be about making university education more accessible. And we've held tuition flat for 2 years in a row. But I have to tell you, of course, our employees' wages have to go up. So we have escalating costs every year. And we've done that because we're so efficient. But we can't keep doing it. So I have to keep finding ways to make sure students can get access, because to me, access and excellence are the two most important things we do.
Thank you. So speaking of the finances of the university, you mentioned the tuition freezes. We've also had some recent cutbacks from the legislature. How is the university going to address, what's your plan to address those issues?
We're very fortunate in some ways that we did so much planning during COVID. So like many of you, what we did is we built tiered plans for potential losses. Universities all over this country saw sometimes as much as 22, 25, 28% declines in enrollment. Boise State saw a 0.3% increase. We were one of the, yes, thank you. We were one of the only institutions in the country that grew during the pandemic. So we planned for facing serious and grave losses. We were watching the data. And so we've made many cuts already to increase our efficiency, and we are prepared to make more. But the first thing we're going to do, like many of you, our faculty and staff often have to travel as a part of their professional work. They sure didn't last year. So we'll first look into things like, where are some places that we can touch that won't impact the enterprise? Because already we've had so much loss. But then if we have to, we've got plans in place that are designed to protect the work our faculty do and to protect our students. So we'll look at ways to continue to create efficiencies. And some of you may know that when I first came, one of the very first things I did as president of Boise State was take a picture with Scott Green, who's the president of the University of Idaho, and I posted it on social media, and people freaked out. How can you pose with that vandal, And your universities and colleges in this state are working together like they never have in this state's history, like they never have. So we have, as institutions, collaborated across the institutions so that we can create efficiencies. We're centralizing amongst us risk management, purchasing, in ways that will help us. You all know this. If you increase your scale, I saw this at the University of California, 10 institutions, you're like a behemoth. 10 large institutions, the purchasing agreements they get in the University of California are incredible because of the power they have to negotiate. We were all negotiating individually, not anymore. So we've created new efficiencies this year, and we hope that'll help buffer those cuts.
So thank you. In all of our businesses, we've learned things from the pandemic, things we can do differently, things that we're going to continue to do to be more efficient and to utilize technology differently. Tell me some things the university has learned that are going to be takeaways and long-term changes as a result of the pandemic.
So I mentioned to you that we wanted to become better in the wake of the pandemic. And there were a lot of restrictions on how we could use the federal relief funds. You probably know, but maybe you don't, that 50% of that money that came in had to go directly to students. So even if we'd already refunded dollars to them, we sent that money out to them, and that felt right to me. But we had to ask ourselves, where are we going to invest these dollars? And so I worked with a lot of the folks that you see at the table over here in the corner. I worked with those folks and said, how do we become more flexible and nimble as a university on the other side of this pandemic? So we installed a lot of new technology in our classrooms that allows students to do remote learning. Now, that was beneficial if somebody was quarantined for COVID, right? So you're quarantined in a special room and you've got access to your iPad and you can connect with your class even while you're in quarantine. But what it also does is it allows students who may need to go home for 3 weeks for a potato harvest. Those students either dropped out or didn't enroll in classes that semester, or they took 3 weeks off and felt terribly behind. Now you can go home, go for the harvest, come back in, attend your class remotely during those 3 weeks, and then come back to campus when you're ready. There isn't a university in the country that thought like that before the pandemic, and there will be precious few thinking like that on the other side, but Boise State will be. So we've made a number of changes that are going to make us more nimble and flexible for our students going forward.
Great, thank you. So we're going to end our questions today with two, which I think are very important, football-related questions. We all miss the buzz of Saturday afternoons and Friday nights at Bronco Stadium. Where do you see the capacity of the stadium being this fall? We're not going to hold you to this, but if you had to guess, are we going to have a full stadium or are we going to be less than full capacity?
So one of the things that we learned this last year, maybe better than any other lesson, is that you can't make predictions. So I recognize that I can't make a prediction, but what I will tell you is there is nothing that I want more than the roar of the loudest stadium in the United States of America and watching the corral, the student section, put down those false start numbers as they create another false start. And I'll tell you, Why? Not only do I love athletics, I'm an athlete myself. I've always loved athletics. But what happens in a football stadium is the exact opposite of what happened during the pandemic. We were all isolated. We were at home. We were cut off from each other. In our football stadium, you're there. Our students from arts, from engineering, from sociology, from nursing, they're there. Our custodial staff, our faculty, everyone is in that stadium rooting for those Broncos. And that sense of community, that fuels innovation. It fuels the energy of the community. It drives us all forward. So my hope is that you may have heard, and Jeremiah, I know you're sitting out there somewhere. You may have heard our new AD, Jeremiah Dickey, say, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremiah, he's going to fill that stadium for every home game this year. Isn't that right? Okay. So we're going to need your help doing that. We need you to come out to the games and be there to cheer on the Broncos. And we will do it as we've done everything in the last year and a half. We'll do it so we ensure the safety of the people who come and of our student athletes. But we're going to be there to cheer those Broncos on. That's my hope.
Thank you. One last question. I solicited from my partners at my law firm what question they would have you answer. And the best one that I got back was, what was your first impression when you met Coach Avalos for the first time?
Oh, that's a nice question. Well, I'll tell you. So Jeremiah and I actually sent my team. I have a Fitbit, and it checks my resting heart rate all the time, and my resting heart rate is usually extremely low. It's about 48, 45 beats per minute. In December and January, it was like 68 because I had to do an AD. I was doing an AD search that was supposed to finish in March, and my head football coach left to go to Auburn, and suddenly I had to do that AD search over in the gap between Christmas and New Year's. And then we had to get on hiring that head football coach. And people, Bronco fans around the state were freaking out. They were like, hire the football coach first, hire the football coach first. But I knew I had to hire the AD. So I wanted the AD to be in alignment with me, and I wanted the head football coach to be in alignment with the AD. And so I hired Jeremiah. And then when he said yes, I said, okay, let's go hire a head football coach. And you might think I'm talking about like the next day. Nope. In that conversation, I said, now we've got to hire a head football coach. So within a day, he and I were meeting Andy remotely. And what I thought to myself was, I couldn't have given him a script that would have made more perfect alignment between me and Jeremiah and Andy. So much so that Jeremiah and I hung up that call and went, did he just watch our press conference and like say back it is so authentically who he is. And he not only bleeds blue, he is going to burnish in the most beautiful way that culture that we love in Bronco athletics over there in our football facilities and for those student athletes. Do you know we didn't lose a single? People were like, you're going to lose all your football players. They're going to jump into the transfer portal and you're not going to have anybody. You're not going to have a team. Not one. Because when they saw that Andy was coming, they all went, I'm in. I can't wait to see him play.
Thank you so much. We so appreciate your comments today and for joining us with the State of the University address. We thank our sponsors one last time, and we appreciate you being here. Let's give one final round of applause for Dr. Tromp. Please join us in person here at the Boise Center or virtually for our second CEO speaker series of 2021 on June 9th. Charlene Mayer, President and CEO of Blue Cross of Idaho, will share how Blue Cross of Idaho is working to shape the future of healthcare and how Idaho is the perfect incubator for healthcare innovation. Again, thank you for being here today. Thank you again, President Trump, for your remarks. We stand adjourned.